This conference will now be recorded.
I've got to get over to the correct screen.
Yeah, make sure you share the right one, not the.
Yeah.
Okay.
My PowerPoint has. Yep. I'm looking for my PowerPoint though, which has now disappeared. All right, let's just do this. Let's just open it back up and start from the beginning. I had it up and it disappeared, so not sure what happened.
Oh, no worries. It's just moving a little slow. It's still loading, looks like.
There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that now. So good evening. I'm Pam Montanari, and so it's really truly a pleasure to be here tonight and to be able to talk to all of you about auxiliary communications and really just give you a little bit of background on ECD and CISA. Like Joe mentioned, I've been doing this for a long time. I do have to say though that I only have 4 states now because we were able to hire a coordinator during COVID. Derek Nesselrode from Kentucky. So he is taking Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, and Mississippi. So I get to concentrate on my 4 favorite states. One of them I happen to live in. So the other thing is I'd like to say hello to a lot of friends from Georgia. It looks like I have representation from all of my states on your meeting tonight. So let's go ahead and get started because I don't want to keep you guys too late or anything. So like I said, my name is Pam Montanari, and so we're going to start out and we're going to talk a little bit about emergency communications. So emergency communications is really, yes?
Hey Pam, it looks, are you sharing the actual slide or you sharing the preview? Looks like it's sharing the preview.
Display settings. Duplicate. Was that better?
No, it might have been the other one. The other option. There we go.
Okay. All right. So there we go. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why that was coming up like that. I am going to see if I can turn off my video. It should be. Mine is full screen.
Yeah, I have you at full screen.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So, what is emergency communications? Emergency communications are what it really means is the methods in exchange to share information necessary for successful operations and incident response. The ability for all of us emergency responders to communicate during an incident or a special event are critical to public safety and also to national security. There we go. Whoops. So this slide is actually what we call the tip of the iceberg slide. So what most people really see and what most people, the citizens, know is that 911 communications. They don't really understand that there's a lot more to emergency communications than what you actually see, because we have the radio communication systems, We have the governance, which is a huge part. That's our SWICs and coordination that goes on. We have the training and exercises, which are critical to any operation. We have the broadband and data systems, which now play a great role in all of our operations and responses. We have alerts and warnings, and then we have the cybersecurity. And we have hundreds of cybersecurity incidents every day. So that's becoming more and more critical as we move forward. So in 2018, we were the Office of Emergency Communications, and that's when we were part of DHS headquarters. And I'll leave it at that high level. At that point in time, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency was formed, which is now an operational component of DHS. So the vision of CISA is to secure and resilient critical infrastructure for all American people. And so ECD takes that a little bit further, and that's to make our communications interoperable, secure, and resilient to enable those daily operations and those incident response throughout the nation. And same with the vision, it's really to lead the effort in protecting that cyber and physical and critical infrastructure across the country. So in ECD, our goal is to advance those communications in partnership with public safety and the national security and emergency preparedness communities, which is the larger group that we work with. So CISA actually supports the entire critical infrastructure sector. So it's not just public safety stakeholders. Those are our primary points of contacts for emergency communications. And what we do is we work with them on a day-to-day basis. But when we look at CISA as a whole, we support all 16 critical infrastructure communities. So it's commercial, private, all of those. And actually, they all play a big part in what we do every day. So ECD is responsible for nationwide governance for public safety. So we actually lead the effort in that, and we do that through two of our groups, and these are stakeholder-driven groups that we have, and they help develop the best practices and create the documents that we use day to day and that are facilitate communications, they facilitate our programs, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. The SAFECOMM, that is made up of 30 individuals with a large amount of public safety experience from across the country, and it also includes 20 different associations that work with public safety. I think I saw Lloyd Mitchell from South Carolina, and he is actually one of our SAFECOMM members, and he does a lot with AuxComm as well. And then the NICSWIC, those are our statewide interoperability coordinators, and those are the 56 points of contact across the country that we have that all of the emergency communication coordinators work with. So our governing document is the National Emergency Communications Plan. And this document was actually created in 2008, and it was tested as part of the Homeland Security Grant Program. And this is a document that was developed to help guide communications. We're now on our third version, and that was published in 2019. The plan itself is designed to help guide public safety. It has 6 goals and help guide the stakeholders and the states and local agencies on moving their communications forward. It's a complex document that has pretty straightforward goals, and I'll talk about those here in a second. So the goals that we have, first of all, everybody thinks technology should be the first goal in everything that we do, but the technology is there. We have to look at how do we use the governance and leadership. So the number one goal is developing that governance. And we do that through a number of ways. The states all have their statewide interoperability plans, which address that. And then local agencies have plans as well. So through that governance and that collaboration across the state and through the statewide interoperability executive committees in each state, they work to move those goals forward within their own state. So they promote the national plan, and then they have their lower level plan. And then of course, planning and procedures for any event, any operation, any response, you have to have plans and procedures in place. And along with that, goal 3 goes into the training, exercises, and evaluation. And you have to train and exercise on those goals to make sure that you can move them forward. And this includes not just our public safety practitioners, but it includes the whole environment. It's activating your EOCs, doing those training exercises, it's bringing in AuxComm, integrating them into the communications unit. All of that is involved. And then, of course, communications coordination. This is really improving effective coordination across all levels of government. So it's from the small local agency up to the state level to FEMA, CISA, and then it's also, we provide that information up to CISA Central, we call it, which can help provide products back to you. And we also work hand in hand with the commercial carriers to help further those communications. And then goal 5 is technology and infrastructure. That's really pretty self-explanatory. It's the technology that we use every day. It's maintaining that technology, it's furthering that technology to make sure that the first responders have the tools that they need to do their job. And then cybersecurity, it's really, this one's really about developing those plans, testing those plans and implementing them to ensure that you have protection against a cyber incident, or that you know how to respond and recover from a cyber incident in any type of communication system there is. So we have several different documents and publications, and these are just really a snapshot of some of our governance tools that we have. The first one is the one that talks about communications dependencies on non-agents, on third-party systems and everything. And when I first started into communications, we had a countywide system, but it was a closed system, and we had our own private microwave loop. Well, things have expanded now, and a lot of people rely on the commercial vendors to provide that fiber backhaul or other services for their agencies. So this one talks about how to develop those programs to make your systems more resilient in case something does happen, like a Nashville bombing or something like that. And then we have some that are on the cyber fact sheet for telephony denial of service. That was a new one that we published last year. And then, of course, the ransomware for 911 centers fact sheet. And then along with that, as part of our technical assistance program, we have a ransomware poster that we have too. But if you see this link down here, this is a great link. If you go to CISA.gov and you happen to have a government email address, we have training options on there under Fed VTE. There's a lot of cyber tools and everything that are available to you. So a lot of resources on the CISA website, a lot of resources on the SafeCom, and then there's also a whole nother section that talks about the communications unit. So we talked a little bit about technical assistance. Each state is allowed to request up to 5 technical assistance offerings per year. And then we also have specialized technical assistance that we provide every year. And it might be like a year ago, it was cyber. Some of it might be ITSL. That was one of our focuses a couple years ago. So we have different programs that we try to promote every year, but each state can request. It could be anywhere from communications unit planning to system engineering. It could be standard operating procedures. It could be alerts and warnings. We have a whole catalog that you can request those from. But even last year during COVID, we were able to provide 152 technical assistants. We supported 15 different skip updates. 3 of those were virtual. We delivered at least 11 of the PSAP cyber awareness seminars with a great subject matter expert out of South Florida. And then we developed the ransomware posters, which we can customize to your individual agencies. And it's just a request through me to get that started. And then we mail those out, we print them and mail them out to you. And then we did a lot of support with the pandemic, the COVID-19 operations and things like that. And I know a lot of you were involved in that as well. So thank you for all of that. And then finally, really on the ECD side are our priority services. And I'm sure that you've all heard a lot of this before. The GETS is a government emergency telephone communication service or telephone service. And that provides a priority over landline. The wireless priority service is commercial based, and so that's your wireless based. And then your TSP is your priority provisioning for those data circuits that are critical to your operations. It's provisioning and installation. So if something happens on a sunny day, we can come out and give you priority of restoration on that. If something happens during an incident response, we can provision that. So if you have to move your 911 center or something else, we can actually come out and do that. So some of these services, especially the GETS cards, are pretty much available. We make them available. Wireless priority services always had a cost associated with it. So a lot of agencies or even the AuxComm side, it wasn't available to them. Well, the carriers have done away with all the costs on wireless priority service now. So it makes it easier for our AuxComm personnel. It makes it easier for all of our public safety agencies. So if you are with a public safety agency, I'm going to do a little commercial and don't have GETS or WPS for your critical personnel, this is actually the time that you can sign up for them. The costs aren't coming back, but just send me a quick email and I can work with you to get that started. And I do see a question in here, are GETS and WPS available to ARES members? And we were able to work that in North Carolina so they could get GETS and WPS. And I think we just have to figure out how to work that, maybe possibly as GMA as a host agency on that. But yes, it's actually doable to be able to get those. So, but those are very critical. One of the things that we learned during one of the hurricanes here in Florida, the one, and I think it was Matthew, if you lose all communications infrastructure, such as they did in Pensacola, you will not have wireless priority service. So you actually have to have service to use the service. If the telephone poles or the underground lines have been destroyed, you're not going to have that. So let's move on to auxiliary communications programs. So auxiliary communications, even though it probably wasn't recognized, has been around for more than 100 years. The federal government realizes how valuable the volunteer communicators are, and that it's a cost-effective backup as a communications resource. In fact, it's not just the federal government that realizes that, it's actually some of the commercial entities as well, because they have ham radio operators that actually work within their organization and are used during incidents and responses to disasters within, if it falls within their area. So in the past, there's been a lot of concerns over the use of volunteers and individuals. And a lot of that was really because there was no communications unit program. And it was, so what if the volunteers use their power? I know in Pinellas County, and Dave Byram can probably attest to this, we would have an EOC activation and there was no real coordination. So sometimes they would show up and sometimes they wouldn't. All of that has really changed now because a lot of the states have actually started integrating the AuxComm program into their actual operations. So really the keys into making this effective the use of AuxComm is educating public safety on the value of the asset. And I think all the states that are represented in my part of the region and even all of Region 4 really understand that. And then also educating AuxComm and really working within the public safety community to make sure that they have those relationships with the communications unit and everything. So it's really a two-way street. So ECD actually developed the ESF2 AuxComm course back in 2010, and it was aimed at the volunteer communicators, the amateur radio operators, REACT, Red Cross, Skywarn, Saturn. I learned a few years ago when I was working with another out in Region 8, how it was used by the Church of Latter-day Saints. So a lot of uses for volunteer and AuxComm communications. So what we really do is we encourage the agencies to use AuxComm. If you're not using it within your agency, we want to help and we want to further that education. We want to make sure that you're using those, but do it during an exercise. Don't wait till the next event and try to use those volunteers, because it's probably not going to work out that well. You don't want to meet during a response. You want to meet during an exercise. So we're really trying to place the emphasis on the relationship between the AuxComm personnel and the communications unit leader or the communications unit, because there might be more than one COML. So we're encouraging that. And so I'm just going to give, if you hear something in the background, it's my dog because she wants to play. But so we're really encouraging that. And so just to give you a couple examples, the state of North Carolina has a very robust communications unit program, and Greg Hauser is my statewide interoperability coordinator there, and Tom Brown leads the AuxComm side, and they use AuxComm every event that they have. So if it's a planned event, they have AuxComm. If it's an unplanned event, they send AuxComm personnel out when they activate their regional centers. So they work hand in hand as part of the communications unit. And I think I saw Virginia Enzer on here. She's one of their great instructors. People that have gone through the training. They have basically a self-sustaining program in North Carolina. And then in South Carolina, just recently, they're trying to mirror what North Carolina is doing. But it takes a while to do that. And so they actually held an exercise in March or April, and they incorporated AuxComm into the actual exercise. And the exercise involved COMLs and COMTs, and then the AuxComm group. And the exercise injects were geared both towards the public safety side and the AuxComm, which forced them into working together. So we got a lot of positive comments out of that. So we've got the same thing going on in Alabama as the World Games come up. We've got Tennessee has a very robust AuxComm program. Florida, Mississippi, and them are all trying to move theirs forward, but they don't have that coordination as much at the state level as some of the other states. And of course, Georgia, I see you guys fitting right in between South Carolina and North Carolina. You don't quite have the robustness, but you have a lot of people trained and a lot of availability to move things forward. So one of the things about our AuxComm program, just like our other programs in ECD and or ECD as part of CISA, the curriculum is determined by the needs of the stakeholders. So as this curriculum was developed, as it's continuing to be developed, it's taught by subject matter experts who have that expertise in working with ham radios that are part of a RACES or a REACT or a Skywarn program. So you can even find portions of the AuxComm course on YouTube. But AuxComm has really started to take hold because it can be used in so many ways, and you have a lot of dedicated people. So because of that growth, the SAFECOM working group that was part of the communication section task force on moving the communications unit forward, they developed a subcommittee. So we have several of our individuals, Edwin Whitworth is a co-chair, Carla Jurens, who's a great individual out of Texas, she's the chair, and then our own Greg Hauser is another co-chair on this working group. So you can rest assured that those states that are using the AuxComm are well involved in the future of what AuxComm holds for you. So some of the things that the working group does is they're helping to move the AuxComm program forward, just like we are with the IT side of the communications unit, with the COML, with the COMT, with the tactical dispatcher, all of those. So the working group is made up of statewide interoperability coordinators or their designee. Some of their current projects are the AuxComm Field Operations Guide that should be finished this year. The curriculum update in 2022, a COMEX, second quarter of fiscal year 21. I'm not sure that actually, or the developmental one. And I think we're going to do some testing on it the following year because we're still not quite back to fully in person yet. And then the coordination of a national emergency AuxComm digital mobile radio test in FY22. So some of the things that they've already completed since this group was formed 2 years ago is a position task book. And I would like to say that there's several people in North Carolina that have completed that task book and moved forward. And I'm not sure about, I think we have a couple in South Carolina that have actually completed it. The new curriculum, they completed the AuxComm curriculum, the ICS 509, the position description, and then the AuxComm FOG, also the eFOG, and that's available on both the Android and the Apple app stores, which I'm sure all of you have anyway. And then of course the AuxComm Facebook page, and you can see how to access that as well. And I know John Peterson is very much involved in that. So we have two programs. We have the state-sponsored AuxComm program, and then we have ECD courses in case the state doesn't have instructors to actually teach the program. So the state-sponsored program, we help the states become more self-sufficient. So we vet the state qualified instructors. They have to be certified by the state training officer and also the statewide interoperability coordinator. We provide all the admin and logistical support. We supply the course materials, which are mostly electronic now. And then we have issue the course certificates, and then we can upload all the information in CASM with the approval. And the CASM database really just helps the states know who's trained and who's not trained. And then for Georgia, we've trained, and you can just read this here, we have 3 courses that were taught by ECD. We've had a couple state-sponsored courses. I know there were some courses that were planned for last year that had to be canceled. But all in all, we have a total of 103 AuxComm trained individuals in Georgia. So there is quite the cadre. And I know Edwin's been leading the effort on the AuxComm side for GMA, Homeland Security. So how do you take this course? First of all, everything kind of goes through the statewide interoperability coordinator, whether it's state-sponsored or whether we're going to provide the subject matter experts to teach it. So there's only 30 slots per class. In most cases, AuxComm, the class is very similar to what you do day to day with your ham radio activities. So it's not going to be anything that you probably don't already know. So it's taught by an experienced instructor, and I know that we have several of those that are on this call tonight. And they usually have several years of amateur radio experience. They've served as a COML in a public safety agency, and then, you know, they've been doing this a long time. So AuxComm is a very popular class because, like I said, there's a lot of people that they may not be involved in public safety, but they might be involved in the AuxComm side for their own organization or for their church. So the class has actually been taught 159 times as of July of 21. And so if you are interested, if you haven't taken this, just reach out to your SWIC, Michael Nix, Alicia Brecker Wright is the deputy SWIC. And then if you can't get in touch with either of them, you can reach out to me. So that is all I have. John, did you want to add anything to the group?
You did a great job.
Okay, that wasn't very much, but if there's anything I missed, please speak up and say so.
No, I think we'll have a lot of questions, and we can just field that through them. But everything you just covered is the 50,000-foot briefing, and you did a good job.
So I have a question for Edwin. Is Georgia, I should say, not you specifically, is Georgia planning the MCV exercise for next year? And I know we've had AuxComm there before. Is that something that's going to happen again in the future?
Pam, thank you for being here with us tonight, and as well as John and everybody else that's attending. Great presentation. And to answer the question, absolutely. So we are in the planning stages of the 2022 Georgia MCV exercise. You'll be seeing that come out hopefully in the next, you'll start seeing material to supplement this exercise probably in the next, I would say, 2 months. The planning team is re-engaged. We had it planned for 2020, but here we are, 2021, and we're still working the COVID side. So we do have it planned for 2022. It's going to be in the spring of 2022. Also, there's been a survey that's been posted out for Georgia AuxComm classes for this course that she's referencing. There's a survey out there to see where people would like to see this course around Georgia. Obviously, probably in each section of Georgia, but for now, we're going to try to see where we can get the most bang for the buck. So, if you're interested in the course, right now there's a Georgia AuxComm newsletter. If you'll go to georgiaauxcomm.org, inside that newsletter there's a survey. Please fill out that survey, and we will be scheduling a state-sponsored course for the end of the year somewhere in Georgia. So very excited to have that, as well as some of the other COMU programs that we'll offer, such as COML, COMT. That'll also be coming down the line as well. So very excited. Again, thanks, Pam.
You're welcome. So we are really looking, a lot of our AuxComm personnel have also been through our COML courses. So we are able to provide a virtual COML course. We do require people to have certain computer equipment. They have to join the test seminar the week prior to the class starting to make sure that everybody's on board and everybody can communicate during class. We are not having virtual COMT classes because there's really no way to hold a COMT class because it's a hands-on class. But we do offer a virtual Incident Communication Center classes, the INCM class, and also the Tactical Dispatch. We can do both of those virtually, as well as the AuxComm class. Alabama just held an AuxComm class last weekend, and it was all virtual. So we're trying to get back to in-person, obviously with the ever-changing COVID environment and some of the new restrictions that were put in place by the president just today. It's going to continue to hamper those efforts. So that, that's all I can say because that's all I know as of right now. But fortunately, we are able to travel a little bit. So, we do have the ability to get things done as we're needed to. Any other questions?
Hey, Pam, this is Joe. I have a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so regarding our public safety partners, what tools do you guys have to educate them about AuxComm, right? So I know AuxComm personnel, Aries, Races, React, those teams, they try to build relationships with our partners, the EOCs, public safety. But do you have tools to educate those stakeholders about AuxComm?
So we can, the best way to educate them is to provide examples of how AuxComm was used in other agencies and everything. But if we can start at the state level, trying to integrate them into some state operations, and then like North Carolina's done, where they put them out in the field operations, that's really the best way we found to educate, besides doing presentations, and people half listen to it, even though I think more and more people are open to auxiliary communications and volunteer personnel coming in, because they're just not getting enough staff for that public safety response. But maybe one of the to-dos I can do is take a look at North Carolina and see if we could do a couple white papers on how they were used during the hurricanes. And I know Tom and Virginia and them and their training program, and what a value it is, basically a value add to anybody's response, especially those smaller agencies that don't have that communications response capability. So, and then we have a few online tools that talk about our AuxComm program, but, getting somebody to read something, taking a few minutes to do that. But it's something that we try to talk about when we go out and give presentations, which over the past year have been significantly limited.
Oh, great, thank you.
I have a question.
Go for it.
This is George. I'm in South Carolina. My call sign's KK4F. I have taken the AuxComm course recently, and I'm very involved with South Carolina Emergency Management Association. And they're always looking for courses like COML and AuxComm and such. Now, I'm a ham radio operator. I have no experience with commercial radio equipment, the trunking, stuff like that. All I have is experience with ham radio, and I have a lot of experience with ham radio. But should I take the COML course even though I do not know anything about the commercial radios?
So some of the AuxComm curriculum covers, a high-level piece of the ICS structure and talks a little bit about the COML and the different positions, but it wouldn't hurt to take the COML course, to learn more about it. The COMT course is very technician-oriented, so if you're really good at AuxComm stuff, it wouldn't be bad to take the COMT. It just depends on what your plans are. And one of the things that I would suggest, and I can talk to Gabe Turner and Dennis and Coomer in South Carolina, is maybe when you have a meeting, is maybe giving a high-level trunking overview of the state system and the different systems in South Carolina. South Carolina has a great online training tool for their public safety side. I don't know the website off the top of my head, but that would be something that they could share with you for just some online training, so you'd just be able to become familiar with it.
Well, I work very closely with Gabe Turner, so that would be excellent.
Okay.
Pam,
were you at
this
the
is
exercise?
Say that again?
George, were you at the exercise that they had in March, April timeframe?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So you probably saw me there then.
Pam, this is Tom in North Carolina. Comment, please.
Sure, go ahead.
So the AuxComm class process provides for states to add addendums to the course material itself. North Carolina has done that, and among the 2 or 3 things we've added is an introduction to the state of North Carolina's Viper system, the public safety system. It's required. It's part of the course. And we get a cache of radios and explain how to do this and show people how to do this. It could easily be done in other states.
Yeah, so I think that's a great idea. I'll talk to Gabe and Dennison on that and make sure that when and if they host another AuxComm, obviously if you attended more of a regional one, we probably wouldn't do that, but we can always do a specific go-to meeting for AuxComm or any other groups just to give them an overview at the state and the operations. Georgia is a little bit different in the fact that there are many, many large trunked radio systems in the state of Georgia. And then the state police operate on a statewide VHF system, but there is no statewide trunking system in the state of Georgia.
Roger, thank you.
All right, the floor is still open for questions. So if you have a question for Pam or even John or Edwin, please feel free to ask. All right, and any other questions? Well, Pam, you did a fantastic job with this presentation, and you've left everybody speechless.
Well, that's a good thing. Either that or they're all just tired and ready to go to bed or watch the Olympics. But it's truly been a pleasure to talk to all of you. I know I've worked alongside with many of you, and I look forward to working with the rest of you as we move forward and get back to normal operations in the future. Thanks.
Again, thanks, Pam, for your time and the great presentation. I want to remind everybody, we have monthly training in Georgia AuxComm. The next training class is August 26th. The topic, I don't want to reveal it just yet, but it will come out in the newsletter. It'll also be on our Facebook page and come out in groups.io for those that have subscribed to that. I want to take a moment again and thank Pam for her time, for joining and presenting to us. It was a great presentation, and I certainly learned a lot. If you'd like more information on Georgia AuxComm, here are the links. So we have a Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, where this training will be posted. We do have a website and a groups.io page. If you just search for Georgia AuxComm in a Google search bar, one of these social media avenues will pop up and be available to you. And we encourage you to reach out and ask questions, link to the sites, and enjoy the presentations and the content that's out there. I want to thank everybody again for attending on this Thursday evening. And again, Pam, thank you for your help. And we will see everyone again next Thursday, same time on August 26th. All right. Thank you and good night.
Joe, thanks.